saying? Anyways, sup? Good afternoon. I hope you had a good lunch. Did you guys like enjoy the little street fair down there? Nice, nice. Sorry you're in school today. It's like a national holiday, but not a federal holiday. How that works? No idea. But what we will talk about today is MVC. Right? I know I'm ridiculous. What is MVC? Model. Okay, cool. That was like really aggressive. What was it? Noise. Okay, the only person in class. Very good. What is a model?
The logic of the application.
Class. Okay, sure. Class, right? We can start with that. What else is it? Yeah, right. This is like the data, right? This is where all of the data comes from, essentially. So very similar to how we earlier did like songs.new and I just made a bunch of songs. Like that was in the class, that was in the model, right? What about the view? What's the view?
Front end.
Okay. Front end, HTML. What else?
What the user sees.
Yes, what the user sees, right? Cool. What about the controller? What is this?
Middleman.
Okay, so the go-between. But what does this really mean?
It builds the association between the requested page and the view you want to be displayed.
Yeah, I'm not gonna respond to that. I'm Ron Burgundy? No, so the controller essentially is the go-between. So what that means is if I'm going to show you some sort of view, I'm going to render you some HTML, I need information from the database, right? I need information from the model. And the controller is the go-between that grabs information from the model from the database and then passes it to the view so the view knows what to render. Have you gotten to the analogy of like MVC being like a restaurant? So what does that mean? Okay, waiter. Who's the waiter? The controller is the waiter, right? So who's been into a restaurant and just walked in and just been like, table for one, sat down, basically put your bag down or your briefcase or whatever, and then walked right into the kitchen and was like, filet mignon, please. Blue rare, touch it, on the grill. I still want it beating when it comes to my table. Thanks, party rock, and then go right back to your seat. Who's done that? Like a boss, like a G. All right, cool. We're not gonna do that here. Right? So you sit down, right? And then the waiter takes your order and asks, what would you like? And then goes back to the kitchen, right? And goes what I would describe as like the database, the back end, the back side of the house, the model, and then gives that order. Eventually, something else comes out, and then the waiter, the controller, will have to take that and then give it to you, the client, right? Until you then see what it is that you ordered. Does that make sense? And so the MVC will become more apparent as we start working through some code, but that's really what's going on, right? So the goals are like, how will Sinatra serve up data in response to our web requests, right? All of our GET requests. And then we're going to map the CRUD functionality to something called RESTful routing. Who's heard of RESTful routing? Okay, cool. So RESTful routing will be your friend. It's my job to do this, right? Oop, just kidding. That didn't work out. Why are my keyboard shortcuts not working? This, over here. Who found my emoji? Casey? Who's Casey? Very good. Bloop. All right, so time to learn. Bloop. So this is what I want, right? When we talk about Sinatra, we're gonna jump right into Rails this Friday. If you as a class move very quickly, we may move into Rails on Thursday, but the plan for now is I'm gonna drop all the Rails labs Thursday afternoon, so you can get handled, you get a handle around Rails, and then Friday I will give you a lecture on Introduction to Rails. Notice that Sinatra is very quick and a very early small part of Mod 2. What it's designed to do is ramp you up to Rails. So all I want you to take away from Sinatra is to understand MVC, right? Because Rails is going to use that. What routing is, and just getting used to the HTTP verbs and how that all connects. All right, I'm going to summarize that at the end with a very simple diagram. But that's all I need you to take away from Sinatra. All right, the goal is not to be the master of Sinatra here. So let's say Thursday, you haven't gotten through all the labs for Sinatra and you're just chasing those green lights, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be like, cut it out, go to Rails. Just like stop, go to Rails. I was joking with Zach, I was like, I will undeploy those Sinatra labs if I have to. But when we tell you just jump to Rails, do yourself a favor, just jump to Rails, all right? Cool? Any questions on the importance of Sinatra and what we're about to learn? Rather, I'm trying to be a better teacher. What are your questions about Sinatra? That wasn't helpful at all, sorry. Okay. Cool, and then we're not gonna do this today. Maybe we will, if we have time, yeah? Okay, so we talked about RESTful routing. It stands for Representational State Transfer. You will not be tested. You will not be tested on this because you can easily Google it. And this is exactly how all good acronyms are, right? Take the first two letters of the word and then the S and T. Who came up with this? No idea. I mean, you literally could have did RST and still called it REST, but you know, neither here nor there. So what is representational state transfer? Like, what is that exactly? Any wild guesses? I keep saying something called RESTful routing. What do you think that means?
It's not like dynamic, it's set beforehand.
That's a pretty good guess. The way I would describe RESTful routing is that it is a particular convention, right? So let's say, for example, I wanted to go to ESPN, right, or NBA. NBA is a good one. Boop, boop, boop. And I wanted to go see, where are the teams at? Teams, right? See this? How the URL changed, right? Let me just go back real quick in case it was hard. Oh, blam. Cool, all right? This is what again? This is the domain, right? So any additional information that I want would be my resource or my path, all right? If I wanted to see teams, notice how I appended /teams onto my domain. This is now the route that I hit, and this is the extra information that I'm getting. Does that make sense? So in theory, if I wanted to see all the players, where would I go? Probably players. Oh, wow, that was a great guess. If everything on the internet had some sort of convention, would it be easier to get all of the information? Let's just say I wanted to see all of my books. What I do, if I was on like Google, right? And I wanted to see all these books, would I do something like google.com/readstuffs? That's probably gonna return not what I want, right? It would make more sense to be like books or something like that, right? And what does this resource point to? Does it point to one book, some books, or like all my books? Probably like all my books, right? Does that start to make sense? So what REST does is it creates a convention that everyone can understand so that when I go to a specific resource or a path, I know what I'm getting every single time. It's gonna make more sense later on, right? So even if instead of NBA, right, I went to like NHL.com and I wanted to, not BHL, what is that? All right, NHL, for those that like understand that there are other sports besides football and basketball, this is hockey, right? And I wanted to see like teams. It's the same path, it's the same resource, but for a different domain. And what should that show me? I actually didn't test this, let's see if it works. Oh, there you go, wow. Did I say out loud? All right. It's because we've agreed upon this convention that when I go to teams, it's going to show me which teams. Just one? Just the Eastern Division? All of them, right? And so what REST really breaks down to is, again, this convention. That if I go to a specific resource, I know what I'm going to get. Any questions on that? I kind of like said that a couple times. Rest, 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 rest. Yeah? Yes, sir.
So to do something non-restfully, would you just name the URL something random, or would you put unrelated content on the page?
For right now, we'll focus on RESTful routing. But if you wanted to do something non-RESTful, that will come into play later on, right? So if I wanted to, let's say, this will make sense later, but if I wanted to like log in to my book face, right, I would do like Facebook and I would do like login, as opposed to like a user account. Does that make sense? So like right now, there's gonna be all these users for Facebook, but if I wanted to log in, there's not gonna be all the logins. Does that make sense? Like there's only like kind of like one login page, and then it's gonna show you a particular user. So like login like breaks convention a little bit because you can't see all the logins, right? There's not like a specific login tied to a specific person. It's just here's like the login page, and then it will make more sense later on, right? So let me not dive too much into that. Any questions so far on like REST and just the fact that it's a convention? Cool. If you guys could just like do this for me, right? Left, right, east, west. Give me like a solid no. Then at least I know you're listening. This is like it's a little tough up here. You know what I mean? Oh. All right, cool. So let's start making some RESTful routes. But let's just try to figure out something, right? Because it's gonna make sense. Before we get further into this, what should I do if I am given a new code base I haven't seen before?
Read the documents.
Yes, read the documents. Very good. And so with that, we should probably at least understand how the app works, right? So first thing is, who's heard of like a rake file? You've done this already? No? Did I introduce that to you? No? I didn't do anything really stupid. Like, does everyone know how to do that, by the way? Command-Shift-D. So if I did Command-Shift-D, I do it a couple times. And I just get everyone, bloop, 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 bloop. Right? That's like Command-Z. All right, cool. So if I do that, it's like a really fast copy and paste, right? Who can describe what a rake is, like a rake task, or what rake is?
Do like shortcuts, sort of.
Yes, it's like shortcuts. Rake was based on something from the C programming language called make. And what it can do is essentially, Ruby can run Ruby for you. It's like real meta. You know what I'm saying? So like if you wanted to do like dog barking, and then like in my task, I can call it like bork. And then here I can just do like puts like bork, bork, bork. Oh, you want to see something wild? Oh, damn, where's that dog emoji at? Bloop. Cool. If you want to know how to do that, it's really not important. But this is the one where people like start writing stuff down. Command Control Spacebar will bring up the emojis. Oh yeah, I see it. I see the notes taking. Yep, very good. Yep, that's the takeaway for the lecture. It's actually cool. It's actually cool. Cool. Glad I hit an important note here. So what I could do is I can go to my terminal. Can you see this or no? Yeah? I can just do rake-t, or I think it's like -- tasks. So I want to see all of my rake tasks. Cool. And look, I have all these cool tasks, right? Where are they coming from? What? Yes, but I've only defined 2 tasks. Where would it possibly come from? Oh, active record, very good. Nice. All right? But here we have rake bork, all right? And the description is there's some dog barking. If I did rake bork, what do you think will come up? Bork, bork, bork. Oh, dog emoji. So cute. Bloop. Cool. Clear. All right? So it's just something that allows me to run like different types of Ruby. And you'll see it become more powerful in the future because then you can just do like file.new and then you can have Ruby make files for you. And then inside those files, you can already write something. Have you seen this before? Have you seen Ruby make a file for you and already write something? Maybe? Maybe? Like, I know I didn't write this code. Yeah? So rake runs Ruby. Yeah? Awesome, cool. So I have this rake file, and I just have like console that's going to give me access to everything. Again, the config environment, you should understand, it's going to give me bundler. It's going to require everything in app. So I have everything in here, right, which is going to be pretty money. And then all I'm doing is like establishing the connection to my database. Sweet. So what is app adapters? Let's break this down. Command with a slash will hide my file tree. Okay? Slash is the key that's above return. There's two of them, so I just wanted to. I always get back and forward slash wrong, so I'm just going to point out to which one it is. It's not the one next to shift, it's the one above return. So if you hold command, it gives you this. Cool? So all I'm doing is I'm hitting the Google API for books. I have a reader for author, and I'm just making authors, right? I'm just going to hit this REST client real quick. I'm sure you've seen this before. I'm going to parse the JSON, and inside the key of items, for each of these book items, I'm going to make a new book. And in the author, I'm going to put the author of that book. The item is going to be the title and the description, and then I'm going to save it to my database. So if I run this, essentially, I'm seeding my database with all of the books. Does that make sense? So far, so good? Cool. Boo, 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 boo. Cool. I have something called application controller. All right. Who has seen this yet? Who has seen this already? All right. What is this controller? Yeah.
It's like how you put your get string method, delete method to your model.
Absolutely.
It's just doing the control functions.
Sure.
Yeah, I haven't gotten up this, but is that the RESTful thing?
All my to-dos.
No, to set views and app views.
This is part of convention, and I'll explain it here in a little bit. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm just making a controller class for my application. All right, right now, my application is just going to be one thing, and it's just going to be these Google Books. All right, I'm very creative, I know, but for right now, just to understand, I'm just going to make like this books website, and I'm going to show you all my books. I'm going to show you the details of like one book, right? So in my application controller, I'm going to hold all of that logic. So what I want to do is I want to set all my views, everything that I want to send to the user, I want to point it to a folder within my app folder into a folder called views. Does that make sense? So if anything happens, I want to make sure that all of my views, all of my HTML is in one place. It's in a views folder. That's all it's doing. That way I don't have HTML like strewn around all over my app. Like why would I put an HTML file in config? Why would I have an HTML file in my DB? I want to centralize all of my views. Okay? So I'm going to put it in this structure called views, right? Notice how it's like M, V, and C. All under app. So far so good? So this is my whole app right here. So I'm going to set it to views, right? Method override, I'll get into later, has to do with the fact that HTML only can respond to two different types of verbs. It can only respond to a get, and it can only respond to post. So how do we get it to do like the edit? How do we get it to do the put, pass, or delete? We gotta be sneaky, a little sneaky. And I'll show you that later, yeah? Okay, we have to override some of that stuff. It's like trick the browser. So I don't mean to like spoil it for you, but the internet's broken. Cool. So we have no models right now. Probably should make one, right? I'll get to that later. And then just views is just gonna hold all my HTML. Cool? I think that's really about it. Here's my migration. It's just book with the author, title, and snippet. So do you remember from Google Books? I'm just ripping this from the JSON data, and I'm just making it. Here's my schema. Oops, too much zoom. All right, this is it. I only have one migration. I migrated already. Figured you don't need me to like run the migration, right? You know what this looks like? Break, DB, migrate. Did I lose anybody on that one? Cool. And just here's my seeds, right? I'm going to destroy all my old books in case I had some, and then I'm going to run the Google Books adapter with this this author, actually, yeah. And I'm just going to run fetch books, which is going to populate all of my data. Yeah? Cool. This is just going to run my Sinatra. And look at all these cool gem files. So do you remember in Mod 1, we were like, oh, Bundler's cool. I've got like 3 gems, that's a lot. And now all of a sudden I have like 10. When you get to Rails, you'll have like 40. The apps get big quickly. And so Bundler is a godsend, yeah? What a time to be alive. Cool. Any questions so far on just this app folder structure and what's in it and how the app runs?
You run Sinatra active record, you have to install Sinatra active record and active record and then also Sinatra session
You mean like,
in the gem, in this folder that we,
huh?
the gem file.
Uh-huh. So I'll run bundle install or bundle as like alias, and it will install all of these for me.
Yeah, do you need all 3 of those, like Sinatra active record, and active record?
Yes, Sinatra is just the framework itself, right? Sinatra Active Record gives me Sinatra-specific things in regards to like methods from Active Record. And so here you'll see this pulls from Sinatra base. So I will need that for application, yeah? Great question. Yes, sir?
Can you explain what this set views thing is?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'll do is I'll have it working, and then I'll break it and I'll show you, right? Because that's like the best way to do things, right? You just break it. Cool. Any questions, comments, concerns? So how can we test so far what is it that we have, right? I have migration, and I've migrated, and now I want to see all my books. Where would I go? Okay, cool. So first thing I want to do is run my console, right? Rake console. And what should I do to get all my books? Book or book? Why book? It's the name of the class? Cool. And will this work? Will it touch my model? Of course it won't. I'm just like constant book. There's no model here. Y'all out of control. So, what should we do? Make a model, right? Oh, if it was only that easy. No, nobody? Nobody? Cool. All right, just me. I'm a loser. So, class, book, all right? Does this inherit from something? Cool. Do I need to put anything in here? Like, has many, nothing, right? Cool. Nothing? Nothing? Right now, I'm just going to leave it alone because, let's be honest, like, there is nothing else happening here, right? So let's test. Boop. Actually, does this work yet? Nope. You'll get this later. So you don't have to do this. It's clown. All right, so cool. There they are. Blam! Oh, that's a lot. All right, book ID 40. A lot of books. A ring of endless light. Man, this person writes a lot of books. That's probably why they use this as seed data. It's a lot of books. Anyways, so, cool, we got all our books, right? Now what? Let us try to finish this README, right? If I want to view information on an individual book, right, where would you say I would possibly go in terms of like my routing? Like what would make sense? If I wanted to see all my books, right? Something like, I don't know, /books. Cool. Right? And what is this exactly? What kind of request would this be? Would this be a GET request? Come on, don't be scared. Say it with your chest, right? I would say this is like a GET to books, right? Yeah, the references get wild. I want to say my pop culture reference to actual teaching is like 1 to 2 ratio, right? Where like 2 is like the pop culture references. So it's a GET to books, right? Why would it not be like a post, put, patch, or delete? I'm not updating, I'm not changing anything, I'm not deleting anything, right? Cool. Sorry, that's individual book.
Something else, would that not just view all books?
Yeah, you're right. See? Good job. Right? That's actually view all books. Y'all tricked me. Y'all played tricksies on me. Right? But what if I wanted to view an individual book? Where would I go? Slash what? Books slash what? Maybe like that particular book ID. Does that make sense? I'd want to see that particular book ID's book data. Right? For view all books, I'm going to do get to books. This will make more sense when I start coding. All you have to do is conceptually understand right now that I'm going to a resource called books with a subsection of this book's ID. The reason I want this semicolon is because then I can interpret, right, my parameters that I pass in, whatever that may be. And this will make more sense a little bit, I promise. Okay? What if I want to create a new book? Where should I do? Rather, what kind of request is this? Post? A little del? A little put? Patch? Get? Why would it be get? Yeah, I'm just looking to view, you know what I'm saying? I'm like Instagram where I got an account, make no posts, and I'm just trolling. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you too? Okay, very good. Yeah. I'm trying to be hip and relatable, you know what I'm saying? It's Chef, it's your boy RD, don't forget. So, what about create a new book? A couple things need to happen here, right? If I want to create a new book, right, what do you normally do on the back end to create a new book? What do you do? Something like this? Right, a little bit of this action. How would a user tell you what the title is? Right? Like Art of War. Art for War, very good. New book, right? Author, your boy, right? Where would this data come from? The user has to input data at some point, right? So I need to render some sort of form so that the user can then input something, right? So what kind of route should I hit? I'm in under books and I want to make a new book. What route do you think I should hit? New? Let's just leave it at new because I'm lazy, right? Would this make sense to you? If you were trying to create a convention, let's just say at some point you also had in your bookstore magazines, right? And you wanted to make a new magazine. It would be like magazines/new, right? This resource, this path should give me, right? I don't know how to do quote. This is just markdown, it's fine. This should give me return a form for user input. Yeah? What kind of request would this be? Would this be the post? Who thinks it's the post? Who thinks it's something else? What is it?
I think it's a get, and the post will be the return will return, and then when they input data, that'll become the post.
Attaboy. The reason it's a get is because I just need to show the form first, right? I make one request to new and it shows the form. When I submit that form, what kind of request is that? It's a post, right? Because remember, post is sending data back through the controller, through the router, to the server. So first it needs to be a get, and then it's going to be a post to what? Books, right? Right now, what if, have you ever run into this error where on the new, you haven't run into validations yet, but if I try to save it, right, let's just say I'm a dirtbag, and I am sneaky, and I tried to make a new book, and all I put on there, because I'm a troll, was the author, and I put no book title. Should this save? No. Right? It should kick it back and be like, yo, dog, come on now. You and I both know you're not writing a book. Both know that. Not just that, but like, come on, just give me a title. Come on, work with me here. Talk to me, Goose. You know what I'm saying? So if it shouldn't save, then I should have some sort of validation that prevents this title from being blank. So when I post, I just want to post to all books as like a route that lets me know I'm still posting to books. But if it didn't save, will it have an ID? If it doesn't save, will it have an ID? No. So this route don't make no sense. You know what I'm saying?
Is there a reason why you capitalize posts and not do it?
No, I just want it to be clear. But good question. Things like that matter actually, and it will come into play. But I just wanted to highlight it. I wanted to like be real angry. I was like, it's a post, mother. You know what I'm saying? Good question. Right? So again, back to this, right? Would this make sense? It can't make sense because if it doesn't save, it won't have an ID. It won't have a book ID. Right? So to be as safe and as generic as possible, I'm just going to make a post to /books. Notice how this route and this route, they look the same. What is the difference between 22 and 29? Do you want me to set the mood? I just realized that it's all black and white, and like none of you have said anything to me whatsoever. Don't be scared. Be scared. Cool. So what's the difference? Is this like a little bit clearer? Sorry. Next time, just be like, hey Evans, like, and turn them lights for me. Turn them lights, and I'm like, cool, let's get dinner first. So, no. What's the difference between 22 and 29? I mean, it's not the route. Sure, I'll give you two. Command. It's the HTTP verb that's different. So, in fact, these two will hit different routes and give you back different data. All right? Just wanted to point that out. Cool? So even though the resource or path looks the same, the HTTP verb is going to make a difference. All right? And then after you post to books, right, what are you going to then serve up? Right? And then like render what? If it works, you want it to render what? Right? /books. / like the book ID. Something like that. Like once it works, you want to show that book page. Right? We want to get this right here. So instead of rendering right here, I can redirect to /books with the book ID. Because why am I just going to render it here when I can just send it right over here and do the same thing? Does that make sense? Like I shouldn't be doing code twice. I'm just going to tell it to go, hey, look, listen, hit that show page, right? Hit that like books page. Cool. What about this edit functionality? Where would I want to go? Probably books. Probably want the ID of the book, right? And remember, these look kind of familiar, right? 18 and 33. But I want to be really specific, and I want to say I'm going to edit the book. Right? Interesting thing about edit. It's almost exactly like new. Because what do you need in order to edit first? You need the form to edit, right? Like I want to change the title now. I want to change the author now. Because your boy sucks. He died. New edition's coming out. And guess what? The RZA and the Jizza are going to like make all these notes on it, right? So the first thing I should do is I should make a GET request to this URL. And that's going to render the edit form. The next thing is what? What should it go to? Book ID? But what kind of though? Is it a post? Am I going to post to books ID? I'm probably going to do some sort of put or patch. Because this is the update functionality. Remember, those HTTP verbs need to line up with what it is that you're doing. Make sense so far? And the reason I can go here as opposed to just /books is because does this book already exist? It does, right? So I can just do a patch to that specific book's ID. So far, so good? And then what about delete? Do I need to show some sort of form to delete? Do I need to show anything to delete? No, right? I could just drop a button somewhere and it'll hit this like delete route for books with that particular book ID. This will make sense later. I just kind of want you to understand where the RESTful routing came from and what it looks like. All right? Having not written any Sinatra yet, that's all I need you to take away from this, right? The conceptualization of something called REST. And that is, if I want to see a specific book, I'm probably going to go to the resource with that book's ID. If I want to see all the books, I'm going to go to a index page, right? That's going to index and show me all the books. So let's just do that, right? What would you describe this as, right? If I wanted to see one individual book, if I had to come up with some sort of word to display one book, what would I be doing? Blank and tell, right? From like elementary school days. It's like bring in like your chihuahua or like your butterfly or like your stuffed animal. Cool. Cool. We should all play charades at some point, right? I'm going to show you this one individual book and all of its details. Does that make sense? So if I said, show me the book's show page, what would that mean to you? A proper response to that is, I'm going to show you a page with all of that one particular book's details. Is that cool? What about all the books? What did I say? How did I describe this? No, let's keep it PG, right? All right, the index, yeah? So far, so good? It's like playing like Wheel of Fortune with you all, and none of you guessed. Hello, Evans, I'd like to solve. Cool. What about making a new book? What would this be? I think we could break this down into two different things, right? So, when I do this book.new, right, this first route, I'm just trying to get you to show a form, right? And that form should be for what? A new book, right? So if I say the RESTful routing to make something, to create a piece of data, it would be new, right? But what happens? See this book.new? And then I did something like b equals book.new, and then I did b.save. How can I combine new and save into what? So I would say that books new is the new route, the new resource. And then when I post to the books, I'm creating that book. I'm actually sending the parameters over of the title and the author, and I'm going to create it. So far, so good? Cool. What about this? How would I describe this? Please, it's so easy. How would I describe this? How would I describe this? Yeah? I would just say this is the edit. Right? But in the same way, right, after supper is ended, and they took the chalice, edit has two different routes. No, nothing? All right, cool. It's fine. When I finally actually send this patch request, what am I really doing here? I'm like finally making that update. Does everyone understand the difference between new, create, edit, and update? Raise your hand if you understood it. No? No? Yes? No?
I don't really get your point by distinguishing between edit and update right there.
Cool. Good question. So remember, when I'm trying to update something, right? How do I get the user's input? right? I need a form. So I need to show you the form first. All right, so I need a get request to the form to actually update it. And then I need to submit it, which is a new request. So there's two requests to update something, right? First, I need to show the form to update. And then when they submit the form, it's going to be a patch request to the actual database to end it, to update it, rather. Yeah? In the same way for new, right? I'm going to show the form, and then I'm actually going to go into the database and make the book. This will make more sense. And then what would you describe this delete function? How would you describe it? Who thinks it's delete? You're absolutely wrong. It's destroy for some reason. Why they did that, I have no idea. But they decided to just mix it up for some reason. You will mix up delete and destroy often. So if for whatever reason your code doesn't work, just put the other one and see what happens. Just risk it.
Should edit and update be capitalized?
Oh, this was just me being obnoxious. Sorry. Cool. I'll stop doing that. I could tell this class is pinpoint sharp on that punctuation. Any questions on REST, the routing, words like show, index, new, create, edit, update, and destroy?
So are these like,
The 7 RESTful routes? Yes.
okay, and you have to use these specific words?
Yes.
Okay.
Please use these specific words.
Is that convention or?
It is convention. It is convention.
It's not hard coded that only these will work, it's just that this is.
Yes, you can deviate from convention anytime you want, but generally speaking, this is the convention. And for most of your CRUD apps, this is all you'll be building for a lot of different things. Did you guys take a look at the Mod 2 Science Fair? All right, were you excited about it? Did you see the app where, I don't know. Just give me an app from that science fair. Oh, okay, the spells app? Great. What was happening under the hood there? Essentially, you would like create a new user, right? And then what? You would like ask for a token. And that token is just being created in your association, in your like many-to-many. User like has many tokens and token like has many users. So it creates the join table instance. And now that table, because the join table exists, is associated with that user. So now you have this token, and then you can like cast a spell. But really, it's all just CRUD in the back end. CRUD. All right, what else? What else was there? The card game, yeah. That was a little bit more complicated, but it all boils down to CRUD. You have like an instance of like a boss, and then it randomly displays, it shows you individual cards, and then when you pick one, it sends the parameters of that card ID, and then based on the parameters of that card, it takes the attribute of damage, and then it subtracts it from like the boss's health, and then it just sends a new request. Yeah? It's like the matrix you're in now, right? Cool. So RESTful routing is just index, show, new, create, edit, update, and destroy. Any questions on just RESTful routing? Cool. You guys want to actually like build something? All right, cool. So we have this, right? We have the application controller. And I'm going to get into the views here in a little bit. So first thing we want to do is we want to get, right, to home. That means that, do you remember in earlier when I did rack and you saw that weirdo go like, I don't know what this is? All right, that's home. That's just this slash. There is no extra like resource, right? There's just home. So when I run the server and I don't put any extra path or like URL or resource on the end, this is home, right? And what I wanted to do is I wanted to just show me, what is ERB? Have you seen this before? What is ERB? Yes, it just stands for embedded Ruby, right? So I wanted to show some sort of file called home. Would this represent index? This is just root, right? Slash just means root. So root means home, or like home page, or whatever you want to call it. And so in my views, I have a file called home. And it's called home.erb. And all it says is, yo, home son, I'm home. Yeah, I mean, I'm so hip. Cool. So let's test. All right. Let's get out of this. Let's just bang out of that. You know what I mean? And then just run a little shotgun action on the app. Okay, just kidding. I think I just run shotgun. Cool. So let's see. Let's go to localhost 9393. Home, son, you know what I mean? Notice how I didn't put any like extra resource here. All right, I didn't like do anything. So slash just means like the home page. Does that make sense? Very similar to like when I did that rack and the response in the path must match artist or song. This I'm saying is the path must match just slash, which is empty, which probably means like this is the root, this is the home page. Does that make sense? Yeah.
It's like going back to that whole Google book, because that was like Google.com, and it would just be slash anything.
Similar, yeah. Okay. So why did I do this set views? Let's just get rid of it and see what happens. Oh no, it busted. Busted. So error, right? So for all of mod 1, you guys did like all this great testing, you guys did all this like TDD, and you're all like high speed. Cool. For mod 2, we're gonna do something called EDD. As much as I want to tell you it stands for Evans-Driven Development, it doesn't. It's also like not a real thing, so don't take this with you outside of school. But it stands for Error-Driven Development, meaning you're going to do something and you're just going to read the error, you're going to be like, okay, great, got it, and then you're going to fix it. So here it says there's no such file or directory inside app controllers views home.erb. So I need to tell Sinatra where my view files are coming from. And so in order to do that, I'm just going to say, hey, I'm going to set the views to a folder called app views. Does that make more sense? Because Sinatra is smart, but it's not that smart. I have to tell it exactly where to go for my views.
Is the views keyword like
It has to be a symbol, yeah. Okay. Eventually, at some point, I'm going to have some sort of migrations, like magazines, or like something cooler, like donuts. And I want to see all my donuts, right? I'm going to make like a donut shop. I want to see like all my donuts. And then I want to see details of one particular donut, right? Like, I don't know, blueberry. And it's going to be like mad delicious, made with fresh blueberries, farm to table. Each one of the blueberries inside your donut is named, right? People do this, I guess. Right, so what I should do is create more migrations. And eventually, I want to get out of this, and I want to make my own directory for donuts, my own directory for magazine, my own directory for books, as my application starts to expand. Does that make sense? Like, I don't want everything in the application. I want everything in its own controller eventually. But for now, for the purposes of the learnings, I'm just going to keep everything in application so you can see how it works, yeah? Cool. So otherwise, I would have the views to be like in the particular controller, like if this was like donut, you know, and then I would set the views here to be like app views and then like donut. You know what I mean? But for right now, we're just going to do this. So I want to be able to see, so we did this, right? To do done, right? We did a get request to home, and all it did was it rendered this home file, this home view page, which was just the p tag. So far, so good? Cool. I want to see all these books now, right? So what did I say that route was? Was it a post, patch, put, delete, get? To what? Books. And what does this do? You're going to forget this do end a lot. Don't worry. Sinatra will tell you. I want to render what? Books. Something like that. So I must need a file that's books.erb. Do I have that right now? Oops, just kidding. No, so let me make it. If you just hit the folder and you press A, it brings this up. Cool. Yeah? So in my books, what do I need to see? So what you could do, and I got to show you like all these cool things, is if you just tell it a tag like P, you hit tab, it'll make it for you. Right? If you do something like H1, hit tab, it'll build it for you. All right? So this is going to be my index page. I know you guys are going to yell at me. Index page. Fancy. Right? Let me just find my, look at this, gains. Cool. Right? So I have nothing in here now. I just want to see if this route works and if everything works. Right? Short feedback loop. I write a little bit of code and I'm going to just test it. So how do I get to this books page? Remember, in my controller, I wrote /books. So naturally, my route must be /books. You just like flexing on me?
No, I got a question. Why isn't it /index? Like, why have that word association, but then not use that word
Perfect,
association?
right? The definition I'm trying to give you here for index just means that I want to show you all of one particular resource. So, for example, right now I have all these books, right? If I had also magazines and donuts and coffees and nachos, sorry, it's like after lunch and I'm just like in this like trash food mode, right? And I called this index, I can't specify which one I'm actually getting, right? I want the ability to look at nachos one day and that to render like the nachos ERB, right? So as my application starts to grow, I want to make sure that the get request to books shows me all the books. The get request to nachos shows me all the nachos. The fact that it's showing you all of them and it follows this convention, this pattern, this is the index, right? This would be the index page for books, specifically in this resource, right? So far, so good? Now, does it show me all the books right now currently? Okay, cool. So what I can do is, how do I get all the books with active record? How do I get all the books? Come on, help me out here. Books.all? Very good. All right. This is going to give me what? Yeah, an array of all my books, right? Here, let's check. I'm just going to open a new tab because I'm a bum. Ah, dang it. Sorry. Rake C. And I can do, sorry, I have to type it out. When you get to Rails, you can just use C for console. Cool. So I read that error. I don't know how to build task C. Cool. So it must be like the fact that it doesn't understand what C is. Yeah. So what does book.all give me? All the books, right? So if I have an array of all the books, right, can I just do book equals book.all? Probably. Now I need to pass in all of these books from my controller. The waiter needs to serve it up to the client in the response, in the view. How do I get this book into books? Luckily for us, Sinatra is very smart, and if I simply add an instance variable to it, I can now go to my books file and just go at books. All right. Hold on. Did I call it at books? I didn't. Whoops, daisy. Books. Right. That makes more sense. At books. Right. Does this work? Is this valid HTML? How do I get Ruby inside this HTML file? I have to interpolate, right? Please stop calling it carrots. These are ice cream cones. You know what I'm saying? Ice cream cones. Cool. So I'm embedding Ruby. If you are lazy and you like shortcuts, I think this class likes them. I did minus and I did tab, it'll do it for me. If I did equal and I did tab, right? And if you're really dirty and you download an Atom package manager and you hit Command Shift period, right? Shortcuts are great. Learn them, love them, use them. It will make you code so much faster. It's not that I'm a better developer than you, it's just I've made more mistakes than you and I've learned how to use shortcuts. Also, Google's like my boy, so yeah. So do I want something like @books? Is this valid now? Cool. .each, remember it's just an array. Oops, do. And a little block like B for book. I can't do that, I'm sorry, it's dirty. Cool. And what do I want in here? Do I want what is the difference between this and this? This and this. The equal will render on the page, right? The equal will render on the page, right? If it does not have an equal, it'll just execute and hide in the background like a champ. So I just want to show the book, right? What is this book exactly? If I call .class on it, what's it going to give me? Like a book object, right? So let's take a look at book. I need to start the server again. Shotgun. Cool. It's going to give me all of these. These are just a representation of the object. So what can I do? Let the drunken sailor. Maybe. Yeah? Let's find out. Oh, just kidding. Oh, sorry, it's not .name. It's title. So that sweet error-driven development. Undefined method name for book. Right? It's because book doesn't have a name. Shh. Boom. All my books, right? Is this like a good user experience? Can you read this? It's probably like pretty crappy, right? So what can I do? I could probably put like a, like this. I can just drop a line break. List item is good too, right? List item is very good, but I just want like a break between each one, like a line break. Cool. Remember, this is just HTML with Ruby. So I will show you something later. And that's how I rendered all the books, right? So my controller went to my model and then got this instance variable, right? And then I passed it to the view, and then the view rendered it, right? The MVC. See how that's working? I know I got like 2 minutes. I'm gonna wrap it up. Yeah.
Can you show the source on the browser of that?
Just looks like regular HTML.
Well, I just want to see.
Index,
So
line break with this item, right?
actually,
If you really wanted to go hard in the paint,
so it remakes the thing as HTML.
yeah, so now they're all paragraph tags, right, with a break after each one.
What's the difference again between using the equal sign and the...
So I'll show you, right? You see this equal sign? Let me show you this. Bloop. Okay, just kidding. It doesn't like that. I think, all right. Equal just means that it will render. So if I delete the equal, nothing comes out. They exist, you see this? But nothing will show. The equal just means I want this to actually appear. Cool? Yeah? So the last thing I want to show you super fast is I want to show the individual book, right? And what was it again? /books, right? With the book ID, right? Cool. So what I can display, if I don't send it an ERB, is I can tell it exactly what to send forward, right? Like I can probably do something like, cool, man, cool. So I want to go to /books / what ID? right? Let's say 40, right? Because I know that book exists. It just says cool man cool. Notice this right here. Cool. So what if I did, and I Ruby interpolated something called ID? What would happen? Just kidding. What is it, params? You know if it's params? You know if it's params?
That's something that
Yeah, there it is. So this ID, right, is going to come through as parameters for me later on. This is going to be very useful when you start to look at specific books, right? So for example, all right, what if I did 39? Yep. What if I did 20? Right? Cool. Now that I know about this params ID, can I do something like book.find with the params of the ID? What is this going to return me? It's going to return me the specific book object for this specific route. All right? And then I can do something like @book equals, right? And then I can probably ERB, right? Like the book. I'll need a new folder, a file, book.erb. And in here, I'm just going to do @book.title. Is this going to work? No, I need to do what? Right? And then just to make sure, I can put a H1 and say, show me the book. So, just kidding. My seed data is bad. Cool. I want to explain something, right? Does everyone understand how this worked just now? Based on whatever it is that I put in here, it's going to find that book's ID and then render that specific book like this. Is this dynamic or is this static? Remember, static means that I'm hard coding everything. Dynamic means that I'm retrieving something from the database and rendering it based on that. What would this be? Who says static? Who says static? Exactly, nobody, right? Good job. It's dynamic because I'm pulling from the database right here based on the route that I'm given, right? Does everyone understand what I just did? And here's how it's working, right? The magic under the hood. I'm going to Z this, right? And I'm going to continue my cool man cool with the params of ID. Params is just short for parameters, which are coming out on this side. So if I wanted to do DJ Jazzy Jeff, right, would this work? I'm saying this symbol is going to be the name of my parameter. So in my parameters, I'll have something called DJ Jazzy Jeff. And this should work just fine. Yeah? So easily, like earlier I did book ID, I can probably do book ID. Because I'm naming the parameter here that's going to be coming across. That make sense? So do I need book ID or is it cool if I just did ID? Boo. Right? Probably ID is probably just fine. Right? So I'm gonna oh no. And then just why again am I using the instance variable? Because it's gonna come through on the other side, right? No. Just this. Cool, right? Does that make sense? Does that work for everybody? So, real quick, I went through RESTful routing, right? We made the index page. We made the show page. We talked about MVC, right? How the controller hits the database and then passes it to the view. This is the website, right? You go to the URL, it hits the route, right? The /books, the /books 10, whatever that route is. It hits the controller that matches that route. So when I did book/40, it hit this route and not this one. When I went to just /books, it hits this route. Yeah? So it hits the controller for the correct resource, the correct / whatever. It hits active record, the model, book.find or book.all. That hits the database. It returns the data back to the model, which returns it back to the controller. Now I have something called @books. Now I have something called @book, which I then forward to the ERB. And then the ERB will render on the website. So that's MVC, and that's how it's working. Are there any questions on MVC, the routing, and RESTful routes? Yes, sir.
So,
I'm literally wrapping up. I got 20 seconds. Sorry.
so because this is, you know, like dynamic pages,